Celtics. Finalize trade right now? Anfernee Simons could be gone. Huge news in Boston. Celtics family for everything. If this conversation gains momentum today, the squad could change faster than we imagine. If you follow the team every day, you know the pain. We create hope. We get attached to an idea. And out of nowhere comes a change that hits us in the stomach. And the name of the moment is heavy. Anfernee Simons. Is Boston about to press the button and close something now? Breathe. Because in this video, I'm going to tell you what's fact, what's rumor, and what actually makes sense. Why this trade could happen, what Boston would gain and lose, and what scenario would be best for the Celtics without falling into a trap. So leave a like, subscribe, and come with me, because once you understand the context, you will know exactly how to react to this bomb. Before I show you what's really going on in this possible exchange, let me ask you for 10 seconds, because this makes total difference here. If you like Celtics and want quick, clear, and no-nonsense news, sign up now. We're very close to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. And when we reach this goal, YouTube starts to recommend more, the channel grows, I can bring more content, more analysis, and cover everything in real time for you. It's literally the easiest way for you to strengthen this project. So do it like this. Subscribe to the channel now. Seriously, it's one click. Leave a like to push this video to more fans. Activate the bell because trade and rumors change at any time. And comment below, would you make this exchange involving Simons? Yes or no? Beauty? So let's go, because now I'm going to show you the details and the scenario that no one is talking about. And you'll understand why this could have a big impact on the Boston Celtics. If you follow the Boston Celtics with your heart in your hand, I'm almost sure you've experienced this feeling. One day you're looking at the team and thinking, it's our year. And the next day, some news changes everything. It's as if the season had two possible paths, and someone turned the key without warning. Well, that's exactly where we are now. Jayson Tatum's injury opened a void that can't be measured just in points per game. It opened an emotional void, a void of identity, because Tatum isn't just the main player. He's the face of an era, the symbol of what Boston built to get back to the top. When he leaves the scene, what remains is a huge, uncomfortable question, which no fan likes to face head-on. What now? But I want to invite you to look at this in a different way. What if this moment of crisis is not the end of the window? What if, instead of representing a lost season, it triggers the boldest decision the Celtics could make? I know it sounds like a stretch, but basketball, especially the NBA, loves to turn the improbable into the inevitable when someone has the courage to pull the first string. And this is where a name comes in that in itself already weighs heavily. Anthony Davis. I'm not going to sell you fantasy or pretend that rumor is certainty, but I'm also not going to treat something as internet noise that, if it has a minimum base, has the potential to change the team's level immediately. When a player at Davis's level appears in any market conversation, it's not just another speculation. It's a type of conversation that affects managers, affects players, affects the balance of the East, and, above all, affects the minds of the fans. Because he is not a good reinforcement. He is a piece that changes the team's ceiling. Now, before imagining Davis in green, I need to put you in the real context of what Boston has become without Tatum. Because if you just look at the drama, the idea of a big exchange seems crazy. But if you look at the structure, at what the Celtics can still do on the court, the conversation becomes different. When Tatum gets hurt, the world's first impulse is to write off Boston. It's automatic. The speech becomes, it's over, now it's time to think about the next season. And I get it. No one loses their best player and comes out intact, but the Celtics didn't collapse the way many people expected. And that says a lot about the base of the squad, about Joe Mazzulla's work, and about the way in which the organization has built an identity that doesn't just depend on a name. You notice this in the detail. On nights when the attack doesn't flow, the defense still keeps the team alive. In games where the three-pointer doesn't fall, the Celtics find ways to compete. This is the kind of thing that doesn't show up in a social media clipping, but it does when you actually watch it. And that's why, even in a scenario of losses and adjustments, the team remains relevant, not as an absolute favorite, but as a real threat to any opponent who comes in thinking it will be easy. And here comes the second point, Jaylen Brown. What Brown has done, in addition to numbers, is taking on a weight that few accept to carry. There is a difference between being the face of the team and holding the team together so it doesn't lose its soul. And in many moments this season, it seems like he's doing the second thing. He has nights when the final decision falls into his hands, the marking doubles on him, the game gets ugly, and yet he continues. This creates two readings at the same time. The first, Boston remains competitive because it has a player who doesn't run away. The second, it takes a toll. And this account in a long season is enough. This is where the big change theme gains strength. Because when you realize that the Celtics are still in the fight, even though they are injured, the question changes. It's no longer, we'll survive until Tatum comes back. The question becomes, if we are still here, what would happen if someone arrived capable of elevating the team now? And Anfernee Davis is exactly that type of player. Let's talk about basketball without rushing. The way we talk on the Celtics Talk Show. Davis is a rare player because he solves two problems at once. He changes the defense and he organizes the attack with his presence. Not every star does this. Many score a lot, but they require the team to adapt too much. Many defend a lot, but they don't give you offensive creation at a high level. Davis, when healthy and fit, can impact both ends in dominant fashion. Imagine the following very simple scenario. The Celtics already have a defensive system that knows how to exchange, press, and close spaces. What is missing at certain times is a rim protector that transforms good defense into intimidating defense. Not only because of the blocked shot statistics, but because of the feeling that attacking the basket becomes an uncomfortable decision. Davis brings that feeling. It changes the way the opponent thinks about the attack. It changes the court map. And in attack, he gives you two things that are gold in playoffs: an option that punishes mismatch and a presence that attracts attention without needing the ball all the time. If you double up on Jaylen Brown, Davis can hurt you in space. If you don't double, Brown gains ground. If you try to protect the rim, the perimeter breathes. It's a gear, and that's what high-level basketball is. Gear. Now, of course, none of this matters if the price is too high. And here begins the difficult part, the adult part of the conversation. Because cheering is emotion, but putting together a squad is mathematics with risk. Anfernee Davis is expensive, very expensive. And it's not just the contract, it's what you deliver to be able to bring in a player of that caliber. When a team trades for a star, they are not just buying talent. He's trading safety for chance. He's trading depth for power. He's saying out loud to the league and the locker room itself, we're going to bet. And betting can be wonderful or cruel. The first risk is the obvious one: health. Davis, in recent years, has carried the label of a player who can give you a historic series, and can also leave you without him at a critical moment. The point here is not to diminish the player. It's recognizing the history and understanding that Boston just went through a trauma with the injury to its main name. There is an emotional limit to accepting more uncertainty, and the board needs to think about this because, in the end, it's not just cap space that pays the bill. It's the season, it's the future, it's the planning. But there's another side, the side that makes this rumor so seductive. When Davis is in one piece, he changes a championship. And it's not an exaggeration to say that. There are players who improve a team, and there are players who change the type of conversation we have about this team. Davis belongs to the second group, and this is where the window discussion gets real, because windows are not something that we open and close whenever we want. Windows are opportunities that appear and disappear, sometimes without warning. Tatum and Brown are at their prime, in the process of consolidating their legacy. And the Celtics, being the balance and culture that they are, cannot afford to waste years in which the team is still able to compete at a high level. Do you see what a dilemma this is? On the one hand, the conservative option: preserve assets, wait for Tatum to return, adjust the rotation, maintain flexibility. It's rational. It makes sense. It's safe. On the other side, the bold option: bring in a star, change the level now, transform a season of resistance into a season of real threat. It's risky, but it's the kind of risk that, if it works, becomes history. And the Celtics are a franchise that lives on history. Now, for this conversation to be complete, we need to talk about what an exchange like this would do to the East. Because the East, the way it is, seems open. You look and see good teams, solid teams, teams that can win series. But that inevitable monster is not so clear. This creates a scenario where a large move can reorder everything. If Boston puts Davis on the roster, you automatically change the calculation of who faces who, change the way opponents assemble the squad, changes the urgency level of other contenders. You're not just improving Celtics, you are pressuring the entire conference. And this is often as valuable as basketball itself, because it involves chain decisions. It also has an internal effect that fans sometimes underestimate. Message. What would a trade for Davis say for Jaylen Brown? I'd say the Celtics aren't just waiting for next year. I would say that the Celtics respect his effort, respect his peak, and are willing to put champion weight behind him. This strengthens the locker room. This creates a sense of purpose. And purpose in a turbulent season is fuel. But I don't want to push you to one side. I want to give you a reasoning that you can feel as a fan and understand as a project. Let's look at the cost, honestly. To bring in a star, you probably lose rotation, lose picks, lose promising young players. And that hurts because sometimes we develop affection for the player who does the dirty work, for the athlete who grows in the system, for the promise that we want to see come true. A big exchange doesn't just involve names. It takes stories that haven't happened yet. And now the question that defines it all. Would the Celtics trade the future for the present, even with Tatum out for a period? The answer depends on one thing: how close the Celtics believe they are to the top, even with an injury. If internally the team sees that, with a defensive and offensive star like Davis, it can cross the East and arrive strong, then the boldness becomes plausible. If internally the team sees that Tatum's health and asset preservation are an absolute priority, then boldness becomes dangerous. But in the middle of this, there is a third way, which is what I consider most interesting for fans to follow: movement at the limit. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Sometimes the Celtics can enter the conversation, test the price, understand conditions, and assess whether there is a scenario in which the risk is calculated. And that's why the period leading up to the trade deadline is so fascinating, because that's when the true intentions begin to appear, not in the speeches, but in the connections, in the leaks, in the parallel movements. And so I ask you, as someone who sits here with me on the Celtics Talk Show, do you want Boston to be conservative or courageous? I'll tell you what I feel, with the honesty of a creator and fan who understands the weight of this jersey. I don't want the Celtics to move out of desperation. I want the Celtics to move on conviction. There is a huge difference. Despair generates bad exchanges. Conviction generates historical exchanges. If a real opportunity presents itself with a package that doesn't completely destroy the roster and with a medical read that gives confidence, I understand why Boston would consider it. Because a team that already shows competitiveness, that already has culture, that already has defense, and that has Brown at a high level, can transform very quickly with the arrival of a player who changes the game. But if the price is what prevents any in-depth reconstruction, if the physical risk is too high, and if the gamble compromises years of planning, then perhaps the greatest courage is to say no and continue building intelligently. And you know what's most interesting? Any of these decisions can be defended. What you cannot do is stand still due to inertia. The Celtics are not a franchise of inertia. It is an identity franchise. So, to close this text the way I like it, with an open conversation and with the fan's heart beating along with the head he analyzes, the possibility of Anthony Davis in Boston is not just about a trade, it's about a choice of posture. It's about the direction the franchise wants to take, at a time when the obvious path would be to retreat. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe it's just smoke. Maybe it's a conversation that dies when the price appears. But just the fact that the idea exists says a lot about where Boston is. Even when the blow comes hard, the Celtics are still too big to accept the "it's over" narrative. What if, in the end, the story of this season isn't the year Tatum got hurt? What if it's the year the Celtics found a way to keep going? What if the big turning point is not someone's return, but someone's arrival? Now I want to hear from you. If you were in Brad Stevens' shoes, what would be your limit? What would you deliver? And what would you not deliver at all? Would you bet big, even with the recent memory of such a heavy injury? Or would you hold tight and let next season be the true comeback year? I will be here with you, following every sign, every news, every movement, calmly and deeply. Because in the end, that's what we do on the Celtics Talk Show. We don't chase the noise. We understand the context. And when the context is as hot as it is now, even a rumor becomes a worthwhile conversation. And now I ask you, looking you in the eye as a fan, are you ready to see Boston choose the boldest path? Or are you? Do you prefer the franchise to play it safe? Because from now on, every rumor, every report, every behind-the-scenes movement could be just smoke, or it could be the first sign of a historic turning point. If this exchange takes shape, it's not just a piece arriving. It's a message for the entire league. It's Boston saying, our window didn't close, it just changed shape. And then, my friend, the East trembles. Because a competitive Celtics without Tatum is already annoying. A Celtics with a star the size of Anthony Davis becomes another conversation. It becomes the kind of team that no one wants to meet in a playoff series. So here's what you do. Before you leave, I really want your opinion. Would you make this switch? Yes or no? And if so, what is the limit? What do you deliver? And what do you not deliver at all? Now, if you want to understand this subject in depth, without noise, without exaggeration, and without losing detail, I left the Celtics analysis playlist in the pinned comment. Click there after this video because I organized everything for you to marathon and leave with a complete view. Cast, adjustments, Eastern scenario, trade deadline, everything. It is the content that will give you the basis to discuss as a fan who understands the game. So, finish the video with me, comment your opinion, and then go straight to the pinned comment and enter the Celtics analysis playlist. Because what comes now could be just another chapter, or it could be the beginning of a story that we will remember for a long time.